Infrastructure is the structure beneath your life. It's all the things that make the way we live happen. The way you get power, the way you get water, the way sewage is taken away, the way that you move around on the roads and the railways. All these things that make the activities you take for granted possible. As long as it's working, you don't really think about it. But when there's a big hole in the road in front of you, suddenly you say, hey, you know what? I liked that highway when it was working. For most of history, people couldn't really move around very easily. The land was taken up with swamps and forests, and you lived and died within sight of the place that you were born. In the Middle Ages, the price that you paid for something, 7/8 of it was the cost of transporting it, not the cost of producing it. Doesn't matter what it was, fish, grain, art, regardless. The roads were muddy tracks. Part of the year they were impassable. The Romans built pretty good roads. They laid roads throughout Europe, stone blocks end to end, that were still in use in the Middle Ages. Nobody had improved on them. If you traveled by ship, yeah, maybe you made it, probably you didn't. You didn't have compasses that worked for a long time. You didn't know what longitude you were. It was a real hassle to get anywhere. Difficult, dangerous, and expensive. It's a really good thing that we've got roads we can travel on. And don't even get started on the subject of water or sewage. In the middle of the 19th century, the Thames was an open sewer. It was so bad that MPs in the new Parliament building were gagging when they tried to speak. And that's why they finally got serious about hooking up London homes to a functioning sewer system that's still in use today. When people talk about infrastructure in Canada, they tend to focus on a couple of mega projects like the CPR. Oh, the railway built us, made us an east-west, not a north-south nation. But behind it all, there are these constant quiet improvements, things like getting gas lighting in your house, things like going from an outhouse to a toilet that's connected to a sewer system, potable drinking water. When you talk about the environment, you think of all these spectacular initiatives. Nothing matters more than the fact that when you raise a glass to your lips, you're not swallowing cholera and your kids aren't dying of it. All of these things matter tremendously to the kind of life that we just take for granted today. And it was absolutely ridiculous to let them fall apart. Maintenance. It costs about 1/5 as much to maintain as it does to repair, and about 1/5 as much to repair as it does to replace. And it's the unglamorous stuff. It's the sewers, the water pipes, the roadways, all the things a politician doesn't want to be seen cutting a ribbon on. That's where the money needs to go, not on fancy sports stadiums. I think it'd be nice if they could bury the wires. This stuff isn't glamorous. I mean, there's some ancient infrastructure like Roman aqueducts that you look at just for the visual pleasure of it. Venice's canals, you think of them, oh, isn't it romantic, rather than, okay, that's a wet road. But even if this stuff is ugly, and some of it is, it's important that we pay attention to it. It may never win a prize, though, the way modern art is, it actually might. But the truth of the matter is that you just take for granted that when you flick a switch, the lights go on, that when you turn on the furnace, you get heat in your house. And above all, that business about clean drinking water. These are not things to take for granted, though. They are things to cherish and look after. Well, that, of course, depends. And this is one of the great problems. For instance, the City of Ottawa, as we were filming this episode, got emergency infrastructure money from the province of Ontario, $12 million, and they promptly spent it on snow removal. Which, in fact, you have to do. You've got to get rid of the snow. We do live in a northern climate. But it's easy to put it off. And that is where you get a situation where, in fact, you probably would need to find $100 billion. That's half of the federal budget, just to catch up on repair work on roads and bridges. And the problem is, if you don't do the repair work this year, you save money, but the underlying problem gets more expensive, and the amount that you save is less than the amount you've jeopardized in the future. We need to start allocating tens of billions of dollars just to maintenance and repair that we're currently not spending. Never mind new stuff, never mind the fancy and the glamorous, just fixing things so that there aren't potholes in the roads every year, so that the asphalt doesn't crack every year, and so that water that we take out of the ecosystem, spend money purifying and pumping, doesn't then just leak back into the ground before it even gets to your tap. Infrastructure. Don't leave home without it. Don't stay home without it. Don't do anything without it. And don't let it fall apart.